try to keep this intro short. The sharks are telling me they are ready for Predator Bay 3000. They are done with this 2,000 gallon tank. They want to move to the big time, so I still have a little bit of work to do, so I got to get going. So we're going to get that taken care of for these bad boys. Hopefully get them moved over very, very soon. We're going to get that 1,200 gallon built, Amazonian Islands 1,200. That's going to be awesome. And of course, we're going to go around the entire fish basement and annex, and we're going to touch on every single tank and tell you where those tanks are going in 2025. Let's go. So my apologies ahead of time if there's any coughs or sniffles. I'll try to edit them out, but I got a little cold, but that's not going to stop us from working on Predator Bay 3000. All right, let's see where to start. We have the tank. You can see some rock. We got stuff down here and the sump pump. So let me fill you in. I got in there and I smoothed out all of that sand, and that's why we're not clear anymore. As well as I went through and did another pass on cleaning the sump. We did a big cleaning before, this sort of a follow-up cleaning. So that's all been done. And in my opinion, I want to pump the water out more than I want to try to aquascape with the water in there. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to go ahead and drain the tank down using the trusty sump pump. And quite honestly, I don't know how I existed as a fish keeper without this guy, because it comes in handy. It'll empty this thing in, 30 minutes or something. So at any rate, I'm going to take the water down. I'm going to leave the water in the 1,000 gallon in the mangrove estuary back here. So we'll just leave that. We'll let whatever comes down. I'll clean up my mess from cleaning out the filter, and we'll have the main display here all lowered down. So let me take you over and show you what I'm working on with the scape. So excuse the mess here. These boxes are full of base rock like that. I have a lot of this base rock, and I have this flat shelf rock. So the method to the madness here is, if you look at these milk crates, what I've done is these 3 clusters here are just built the same way. So the way they work is there's a hole in the top here, big enough, for example, like an eel to go into, and then the one right below it is completely open on the top, so that if you go through here, you go into that large cavity, and then you can go from side to side. So it creates, when it's all stacked together, they can go in, down, and over. But the top here, most of the top here, and the sides and everything will be covered by live rock, base rock at first, and then live rock. So the reason for this is to create a home for eels. So there's 2 of these homes for very large eels could go in here and keep sharks out. Anything on the side, the sharks are going to go in there. They're less likely to go in from the top like that, especially with rock around and everything. And then in between these, I'm going to be creating some basically large caves. So there'll be, if you think of something like this, where this is coming out and it is being supported on both sides, and these will be used to strengthen these grates over here, so that they'll create a platform. So we'll have a structure and then a flat surface across, and then a structure and down. And so we're repurposing all the material that went into the divider for the 4,500 gallon, some PVC, and some milk crates. And I realize at this juncture it's probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but once I get this pumped out and you see it in there covered up with some base rock, at least enough to get it started, I think it'll make a lot more sense, and it will look natural in the end. And then of course it's going to be covered with the live rock at the very end from the current Predator Bay. So you'll have to go in 2 stages. One stage with just the base rock holding it down, fill the tank back up, turn it back on, make it salt water, then come back and layer on all of the base rock from the existing shark aquarium. So we won't bother the sleeping sharks until we have to, until it's time to move them in to their new home. And before I forget, while the sump pump is doing its thing and bringing the water level down, Obviously, I won't take it all the way down to the sand substrate. That'll be plenty for me to work in there, no problem, be able to see what I'm doing. But the other thing is, when I add the water back to Predator Bay 3000, I'm going to be using a hot and a cold water source, so it won't be going in super cold like it was before. So there's not going to be any big delay with this. This will allow me just to get the scape in, make it perfect with all the base rock and the structure, and then get it filled right back up. So all in all, even though I'm pumping the water out, this is actually going to make it faster than if I didn't. So here's something we haven't seen for a while. The current Predator Bay, soon to be the old Predator Bay, all lit up with the lights on. And people have asked about, you know, hey, what does it look like? Well, it looks pretty decimated. You can see the sharks have knocked everything over. They are bulls in the china shop. But also, I want to appreciate that, you know, this is still a big tank. Like, as you can see, you know, almost, you know, 3.5, 4 foot long shark. He's got room in here, and he's going to a much bigger home, so it's only going to get a hell of a lot cooler than it is right now, but it's going to implement a lot of lessons learned. So in this video, I'm doing a lot of aquascaping on the 3,000 gallon, the new Predator Bay 3000, and it's because of, you know, seeing how strong these guys really are when they get big. So it's going to be an aquascape that can take these guys banging on it, as well as provide home for other fish, to give them safety from these guys during feeding times and things like that. So there are, most of the time they're pretty easy going, but they have their moments and they get quite aggressive. And it doesn't matter, you know, how big the other fish is. These guys, I personally have watched them rip a fish in half. And even like right now, there's a grouper there, and he's sort of hunting the grouper right now. He's, you know, he's being, I would say, menacing. So and that's a foot-long grouper. So we're gonna make improvements with Predator Bay 3000 over there, where we're going to implement things into the aquascape to prevent these guys from knocking it down, and to provide habitat and secure places for other fish like large groupers, snapper, eels, and things of that nature, to have a safe place when the sharks are, you know, feeding or, you know, quote unquote in a mood, whatnot. So one of the last looks at the Predator Bay 2000, because this is going to be very soon turned into our tropical lagoon aquarium. So marine community fish and corals. But first of all, before I can get these guys out of here, I have to finish that over there. So let's get on to that scape. So we haven't just made progress with Predator Bay 3000. We've also made a lot of progress on the right 1,200 gallon build. The one here to the right, and we have the other one to the left. So let's go ahead and start with the sump. So as you can see, well, you probably can't see, so let's get a light in there. We've got all 3 coats on the sump, the blue and 2 blacks, and we are all done. Looking perfect. Come over here to the main tank, and again, all the coats are done. It is ready to go. So it's time to install the glass, and I'm going to go ahead and get working on that. And then once the glass is installed and we're waiting for that silicone to cure, what we'll do is we'll come up here to the top and we'll think about where do we want to do our cross braces, how do we want to space them out so that the tops fit in between, how are we going to suspend our pumps in the water column and send the plumbing back over there to the wetland filter. We could start building up the wetland filter. Also, do we want to do a riverbank across the back? Are we going to have emergent grown plants coming out of the tank? I can give a hint, we will. So, but there's a question is it going to be like where there's an underwater scape and then there's the emergent grown plants coming out the top, they're sort of disconnected? Or is there going to be not a lot of vegetation inside the tank? Maybe that won't work with the fish. So maybe we do lots of floating plants and then emergent growth vegetation. So depending on exactly what we want to do there, it'll determine how I want to set up the bracing, because do I want to create it so baskets can hang down in there in the water? Do I want to create it so that there's a lot of dividers for tops? How high do I want it to be for floating, if I want to have floating plants? If the water line, you know, is right here, So you come out, you've got, you know, maybe 4 or 5 inches there. Do I want to suspend that up any, make it taller? So we'll have time to work on all of that while the glass is curing. And of course, we're going to have to get over here. And it's going to be more or less the same design, but just have to figure out the plumbing, get it down there, get the standoffs, and start getting that built up. But we are very, very close on the 1,200 gallon Amazonian island tank. So you might have noticed this piece of wood out front here. This is a piece of wood I've had outside, just getting it ready to put into one of these tanks for a long time. And I think where I want to put it here is in the 4,500 gallon, sort of bridging these two areas here. Let me swing around to this side. Check in on the Fogo real quick. So we have this very, very large rock formation, and it goes into this other large formation over there. And I want to sort of bridge that, so I can take this big piece of wood here and I can have it kind of go vertical like in other areas of the tank, you know, come down and just sort of fill that space, or I could go horizontally and try to make it, you know, look like it's coming out of that over to that area and sort of give a lower connection, not super low, like maybe about halfway up the tank over and connect it in to that over there. So let me know what you think about that. I won't be doing it in this video because I'm going to have to basically, you know, remove some covers and hop in there so I can get it and place it just right. But so we're just kind of looking at vertical, like over here, or horizontal, connecting these two big formations. Alright, so any of you guys who've been around the channel for a little while, you know that when the moving blankets come out, that means it's time to install the glass. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to come around here. I'm going to get some suction clamps on this 8x3 sheet of glass by a ½ inch, and it is tempered. And I'm going to put the thick moving blanket up here, and one of the thick and the other ones down on the inside. Then of course I will heave this glass up and onto here, and then get it positioned up, go inside, reverse, and bring it down. And just to cover real quick the aquarium, so the inside of the aquarium here is a little over 8 feet long, 4 feet tall because the glass doesn't go all the way to the bottom, it's built up a little bit, and then 4 feet front to back. And then of course the last 2 feet of the 10 foot of the overall aquarium is our upflow wetland filter, which, as you can see, the water will be sent into the bottom and it'll upflow through all the aggregate and then back into the tank. But for now, I've got a 235 pound deadlift to do real quick, so let me get into that. So it's a little unexpected I'm showing you guys the 220 discus aquarium again so soon, since we just added in all these different tetra species and rams and everything. But what happened was so even though I quarantine all of these little guys they're split up between a 40 gallon and a 20 gallon for about a month, because they came in super tiny and I was afraid they would go down my overflow over there, so I wanted to put some size on these guys. They're still not huge, but especially like the Rumpy Nose Tetra, they were just minute when they came in, so I wanted to beef them up. But the reason I'm showing you this is so they're not sick. There's no ick. They all look good. There's no die-off. But they brought in some kind of a parasite, because not long after they came in, literally within 2 days, well, I shouldn't say that, within 1 week, my discus all started clamping their fins, and they had the slime coat on the side of their body. You could see the slime coat turning white and sloughing off, and they were, all of them, every single one of them. Even so, the one in the back there, the blue discus, the blue turquoise, he's actually coming around too. He's the last one. But these guys were not eating. They were clamping their fins, and they were just all up at the surface, just sort of huddling up in the corner. And so when I see that, that generally means a parasite. So something that these guys were living with. So a parasite that they came in with, all through the quarantine, didn't bother them. They're acting fine, but something that these guys couldn't tolerate. Two things I want to say is, one is, you know, do you just quarantine, when you're quarantining, do you run meds through all the fish to prevent this from happening? And two, is if this does happen, like in this case, what do you do about it? So let me start with the second thing first. So when you see when the fish clamping their fins, they're obviously in distress. Their slime coat is sloughing off. Maybe they're eating a little bit or not eating, and but they don't have ick or any obvious external parasites on them like that. Or I'm sorry, the results of an external parasite like ick, the spots and everything. What I do is I do 50% water changes, and I start using a medicine like either Prasipo or Paragard, and then so basically I dose the tank. I dose the tank 24 hours, then I do a 50% water change, then 24 hours I dose the tank, and I just keep going like that. So I did 2 doses, and as you can see, the viscus are looking a lot better. You know, they're not 100%, but they've started eating again, and they're looking good. They're definitely on their way back to a full recovery. There's still one of the yellow ones up there at the top. He's taking a little while with the blue turquoise in the back. But I ran out of medicine, so I'm going to miss a day. So I'm going to do another 50% water change, and then I'm going to start up, and I'm going to run that through another 2 doses. So it's going to be 5 doses total over roughly 10 days, and until I see them all 100% again. And then after that last dose, of course, a 50% water change. So it seems like everything's on track, so all's well that ends well. Now the second thing is, why don't I just run meds through every fish I bring in and while they're in quarantine? You know, we all know Med Trio, things like that. You know, go for internal, external, parasites and bacterial infections. You know, I generally, the way I work is a smaller tank like this, especially when I'm quarantining them for a month. I do observation, but as you can see, sometimes that's not enough. But the reason I don't necessarily treat them on small tanks like this is because I can dose this tank no problem. Now when it gets to bigger tanks, you like the 3,000 gallon, the 2,000 gallon, the 4,500 in the Annex way over there, you know, I don't do that. That's an area where I'm much more likely to run meds through those fish in quarantine, or quarantine them for, well, it's not even really a time thing. It's basically just running medication through them because it's harder to dose those tanks and it's hard to catch those fish. So that's the rhyme or reason of that. That's what's going on with this tank. I do have the other half of the new fish that's going in here, but I'm going to leave them in quarantine longer, obviously, until this is fully treated. And I'm actually, once the more Paragard or Prasipro comes in, I'm going to dose them as well. So hopefully we won't have a part 2 of this. Okay, as you can see, Aquascaping on Predator Bay 3000 has begun, and there's been a few surprises. So let's see. Initially, what I thought I would need for the structure with the milk crates didn't need quite as much. It was getting, you know, way too high once you build up enough rock to hold everything down. Another thing is, it's crazy as always how it doesn't look like it's very far back when you're just looking in the front, but then when you come up and you see that it is actually, you know, over 3 feet back into the aquarium, leaving a 2-foot channel back there for the big sharks to go around. And then of course we have another one over on the other side. We'll check that out in a minute. I want to bring, while I'm up here, I want to show you is that obviously we have the big cave area under there for fish to swim through, but we have 2 vertical caves cut into the top there of that milk crate that we framed out with this rock that leads down inside of that milk crate and into that one. There's an opening in the middle. They're connected, zip tied all together, but that's going to be the entry point for corals or for groupers or anything that want to go down in there and hopefully keep the sharks out. There's another one over here on the other side, same deal. And then in terms of on the side of all this, it's all going to be built up with rock. So that's going to keep anything that's built up high like this. I'm using the structure like the milk crate so it can't be knocked down by the sharks. And anywhere there's no milk crate, it'll be rock on rock, so there's nothing for them to knock down. It'll be pushed in, you know, rather flat. But obviously this looks ugly, so it's not the way it's going to stay. So what's going to happen is I needed to bring the water level down to get in to do what I did with the milk crates, trying to fit everything, move things around, try stuff out when it was full of water and me walking around in the sand. and clouding it up, it was too difficult. So I went ahead and I drained the water down, and you see what we have. This is the one side. We have this big, long, about 7-foot structure. So this side of the tank is 12 feet from there over to there. So that's a 7 or 8 foot wide structure. And then this side of the tank is 10 feet, you know, from the middle part all the way to the end. And you can see here we have a different structure that is more sort of angled from the front to the back, and it has a cave over here on this side, like a swim through. You go in here or here. This one over here is going to be completely covered with rock, and then we've got another swim through cave for bigger fish over on this side. But all the base rock you see there now isn't going to stay that way. It's just there until I fill this tank back up and turn it to salt, because to get the rest of the rock out of the current predator bay, all of this live rock with all this bacteria, and there's a lot of huge rocks in here. Like you can see, that's a 30-pound rock right there, easy. There's a lot of big ones that they've knocked all down, but all of this is going to go into Predator Bay 3000, and this needs to be salt water before I can do that, because I don't want to kill off all that bacteria. And all of the live rock is going to replace that top layer. So that top layer of base rock will form the edges around, you know, the sides of the plastic and everything, and then the new live rock will go up there. And what's going to happen is, not only is every part of the milk crate going to be covered, the top part will be built up more with much larger stones than these to hold these guys in place so sharks don't knock them down. But I'm also going to, it's not going to maintain this sort of straight or sort of just simple shape. The live rock is going to come down off in different directions and create, you know, different pathways of rock curving off and make it much more natural. And that's going to happen on all the sides. So there'll be rock work coming down and going like that, and some coming this way, and it'll have a much more natural look. But I'm not able to do that until I make it saltwater again, because like I said, I can't kill off all the bacteria and everything living on that live rock there. So the plan obviously is to fill it back up, but the key thing is I'm not just going to fill it up with the cold water like before. I'm going to run a hot line and a cold line to it. We're going to get filled back up, and we're going to get it running and start adding the salt right away. I cannot wait to get the sharks in here, and we're so close. So I'm going to get that going, filled up, temperature corrected, you know, correct temperature, adding in all the salt. Basically, the 3 boxes of base rock just got eaten up like no tomorrow. 3 big boxes like this, just eaten up. But at any rate, I got all this salt down here. I'm going to start using up all this salt, clearing out all this space, and we're going to start recovering the fish basement and making it look nice again. But once this is saltwater, the plan after that is to basically just lower down the current predator bay, divide off a section. So move some rocks over, divide off a section, get the sharks over on one side or the other, preferably this side, since it's closer over here for me to carry the rocks over to the new predator bay. So then get all the rocks over here, and then just basically finish the scape and move the sharks all at one time. The reason I don't just pluck rocks individually is because as they've gotten bigger, every time I'm in there doing anything, they just get super curious, and they're always up at the top and like poking their, anywhere I go in, they'll swim up my arm, they'll poke out the top. It's too much to sit there and try to, you know, fend them off, like contain them with one hand, their curiosity and everything, while trying to pick up very large, heavy rocks. Plus it's deep. This is, you know, 3 feet deep, so I can't reach down without getting soaked. So we'll take this down to maybe about a foot, wall them off, and then get all this rock in here, get this scaped, and then move the sharks over. So, So Predator Bay 3000 is about to officially become saltwater. So now it's time to go around the entire fish basement. We're just going to take a quick stop at every tank, and we're going to talk about the future of that aquarium for 2025. A lot of you guys probably know some of these, but maybe there's some you don't know, and we're just going to cover every single one of them. So let's go. So let's go ahead and start in the Annex, the one of the 1,200 gallons aquariums. Obviously, it's going to be finished, be complete, being built in 2025, very early 2025, and we know this is going to be an Amazon community fish aquarium. We've already got fish growing out for it, and it's going to be something else. A 1,200 gallon community fish tank. Gonna be awesome. The other 1,200 gallon aquarium, same size tank, exactly same dimensions, but almost done. This one's getting ready to get the glass put in, and this is replacing the 750 gallon Amazonian islands, and this is gonna be a Amazon cichlid aquarium with some special guests. Basically something to bridge the gap between community fish with like geophagus and angels and discus, things like that, but not big enough for the big boys over there, the bass and everything, the 4,500. So think of this as that middle point for those big cichlids that are semi-aggressive, and again, some special friends, which I know you guys are gonna like. So this is gonna be a fun tank over here. And then of course the literal 900-pound gorilla aquarium in the Annex, the 4,500 gallon. We made a lot of progress on this tank in 2024, so for in 2025, we're just gonna let it mature, let it grow in. All the fish are gonna get bigger. The river bank is gonna get even denser. I'm gonna move these lights back a little bit, give it more room to grow up. We're gonna fix some of the water flow issues. We're gonna install that big air pump for that. That's actually gonna be able to do the whole room too. And we got a little bit more aquascaping to go. But for all intents and purposes, we're just gonna be doing some fine tuning on the 4,500 gallon Xingu River Aquarium. And lastly in the Annex, we have one more tank to build, which is gonna be the 12-footer, and that'll come sometime later, much later in 2025. Right now, it is a marine grow-out system for all the new marine tanks we're working on. So late 2025 for that tank. As we transition back into the main basement from the Annex, the addition, we have a 600 gallon aquarium here. So this is a 6x4x4, and it's connected into a 700 gallon lagoon when that's completely full, which is right now a refugium, and then a 265, which is in wall to the other room over there. So this is gonna be an absolute ton of change, because all the saltwater fish from the 265, all the ones that made their way down into the lagoon sump, and all the ones of the 600 reef slope here are all moving into what is currently the Predator Bay tank, which is the 2,000 gallon. So all of these marine fish will be going in there. That will be the lagoon aquarium. Will be tropical community fish, marine tropical community fish, and corals, things of that nature, invertebrates, and which means all of these tanks in here are changing. These are all going freshwater. I've thought about it for a while, and I've finally decided that this 600 gallon aquarium, 6x4x4, is going to become a deep water Tanganyikan African cichlid aquarium. The 265 in wall over there, that's going to be what I'm calling sort of my special aquarium. You'll see when it happens, but it's going to be a combination that will be unexpected for sure. And then that sump is going to transition from a marine reef sump to a freshwater planted sump. So that's what's in store for the whole 1,500 gallon system. All right, the back room of the house, the far back corner, the original double DIY builds, the 600 gallon Asian jungle tank is on cruise control. Just building, just keeping to grow out the plants and everything. I did filter maintenance right before filming, so that's dumb, but it's in cruise control mode. Everything is good. This is the 750 gallon Amazonian islands. We know all of this is going to the 1,200 gallon. This tank is going to be completely refurbished inside, and this is becoming the 750 gallon Lake Malawi aquarium. And this is the current Lake Malawi African cichlid tank, which I call the Malawi River Aquarium. So everybody from here is going to go into the 750 that I just showed you, and this aquarium here is going to go through a big change. So it's going to have no sump. The sump's coming off. The sump's leaked for a long time. The liner leaked, so that's going to get torn out and cleaned up. All this mess cleaned up. This tank is going to have no quote-unquote filter. It's only going to have live plants and water flow. The overflow is coming off. I'm going to push it a little further back to the wall, and this is going to be a freshwater nano aquarium, 125 gallon nano aquarium. So nano species with only plants filtering it, with a really awesome intricate aquascape, and yeah, no external filter. It's going to be a fun one. And this, of course, is the 265 in wall. It's in, being torn down right now because everything's getting ready to change. But so it's not looking the prettiest, but essentially it just has some community fish that are going to be going into the 2,000 gallon lagoon aquarium. So they got big things coming for them. And I think we all know what's happening with the current Predator Bay. So these guys are moving into their new 3,000 gallon home over there. And of course, this 13.5 foot by 6 foot wide aquarium is going to be turning into a tropical lagoon aquarium for all those marine community fish, inverts, and corals. This one's gonna be a fun one too. Actually, it's gonna be a lot of fun ones. Get ready for your new home, my friend. It's coming soon. Predator Bay 3000, of course, is gonna fill for a while, gonna become saltwater, and then gonna become the new home of the marine sharks, rays, groupers, snappers, all that good stuff. Maybe an eel or two, we'll see. But Predator Bay 3000, it's gonna be awesome. It's got a lot of growth to do, but it's coming online very soon. And I think an equally cool part of Predator Bay 3000 is going to be the 1,000 gallon mangrove estuary. We're going to build up an entire aquascape in here. We're going to grow big mangroves out of the aquarium all the way to the ceiling. And this is going to be an estuary for future baby sharks and things of that nature that need to grow out. And then ultimately, it'll be a major part of the filtration system for Predator Bay 3000, hosting mangroves, macroalgae, and lots of live rock. Now the 315 gallon is just a grow out tank at this point. But the reason I'm showing it is because the space that it occupies over here is going to be changing, and this is going to be a new custom build that I'm going to do that is going to be very different than I think anything you've seen. It's going to be a combination of things you don't normally see together, but I think will work very, very well together and be awesome. And lastly, the discus aquarium, 220 discus aquarium. Basically, we're just going to continue to build up the livestock in here and continue to figure out the lighting, because I do want to have the immerse grown plants, but we can see there's not nearly enough lighting for the water lettuce because it's just continually dying back instead of thriving. So we're going to work on those things and basically just make it a better version of what it already is. So that's just a real quick sort of around the fish basement, touching on every tank and what's going to happen in 2025. People who've been following the channel for a while, I know you know about most of that, but you didn't know about the Tanganyikan tank. You don't know about what's going to happen to the 265. You don't know about the new build that's going to replace where the 315 grow out is, and there is actually also one more new build that's going to come that's going to be related to my desk area. It's going to be pretty wild as well. Definitely something you don't normally see. Very, very custom. And of course the 12-foot tank here in the Annex. So not only are we doing a lot of rescapes, finishing builds, moving fish from tank to tank and rescaping, we've got 4 whole new projects that you know, hopefully they'll happen in 2025. If not, they'll roll into 2026. But I think you get the point that 2025 is going to be a busy year in the fish basement. I mean, we got Predator Bay 3000 coming. That's also awesome. I can't wait. So as always, thanks for watching. And I will see you guys very soon. And hopefully I'll be showing you Predator Bay 3000 with sharks in it.